Well, William Burroughs was a major American writer and artist of the 20th century. He was born in St. Louis in 1914, and then he ended up in New York and then moved to Tangier and became very well known as a kind of itinerant travelling American writer, a kind of expat migrant American writer. He was queer, he was a drug addict, he was a major pop cultural icon. His most famous works are books like Naked Lunch, Junkie.
And while he's writing, and nowadays as well, his artistic oeuvre starts to be very well known. His photography is very little known. He took thousands of photographs throughout his life. You can see them as separate from his overall oeuvre, but they are also part of his overall oeuvre.
We can't be quite sure what he was using these photographs for, or whether he really intended to use them at all in any way that we're thinking about. One of the problems is that there are so many photographs, but he didn't keep them. These are photographs that weren't taken to be exhibited as photographs, and we've had access to very small fragments of that kind of complete oeuvre, and a lot of it hasn't survived, unfortunately. A lot of it's disappeared completely. One of the things that's going on in quite a lot of the images in the show is the way in which Burroughs is using photography to, not quite to record, but to make a record of artworks in process and then transform the artwork and then record it again. So what we get is this sense of photography and its relation to time, to things developing, things in the process of becoming a completed artwork. And in several cases, what we've got here are photographic images that depict artworks that don't actually exist in their final form. He collaborated most famously and most extensively with the artist Brian Gysin. And Gysin and Burroughs worked quite extensively to explore the potentials of the cut-up as a way of generating new chance-centered meanings out of pre-structured works. The cut-up technique is taking pre-existing texts and cutting them up almost literally randomly, although in practice it's not quite as random as it seems to be. But the theory is that it should be random. And then reorganizing them, sticking them together into new combinations.
And in photography, he also works with Ian Somerville on this. In photography, he's pushing this still further, where he's cutting up photographs and also texts and images from different media, like newspapers, lays them out together with Somerville, takes a photograph. And this is a process which is taken over and over and over again until you have the tiniest bit of fragment, which, however, returns in the bigger photograph as well. So these kinds of games Burroughs is playing with you are the really interesting ones. That Burroughs and Gysin were influenced by surrealist collage and assemblage techniques is very well known. What is not that well known is that actually he was also very much influenced by his mother, who was a flower arranger, and he even referred to collage as the art of flower arranging. What is a really insistent and recurring element in Burroughs' photography is himself, but himself as a reflection, as a flash.
If one looks at the images, start to piece together into a kind of total picture of the photographer as collaged into his own photographs, as if he were being cut up and
always
then
fragmented.
Always fragmented and reconstituted in a sequence of photographs. There is a privacy dimension to these images that's quite important, actually. There are traces of figures, but the figure is often absent, and that makes them, as we say, very poetic. It makes them very evocative images.
This is not an exhibition which closes down and defines what Burroughs' photography is, but actually opens it up and hopefully invites people to reconsider Burroughs' work in light of these images and to start really digging still more thoroughly into his other works, which are related but not part of his writerly work. People will find their own narratives, their own stories, they will find their own interpretations, which are just as valid as any other